Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Everyday Ecom Podcast. Today I'm joined with Nate Ginsberg. How's it going, brother?
It is good, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Where are you currently based out of?
I am based in Austin, but for a long time was living in Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Thailand, but been in Austin a little over a year now.
Yeah, it seems like everyone is moving to Texas and particularly Austin. So
Yeah,
you guys
yeah,
have the big mastermind entrepreneurs there. So
yeah. It's people escaping California, New York taxes, all relocating here.
yeah. So yeah, man, thanks for coming on. I would love to know a little bit about your background and what it is that you do for our audience that might not know. So I'd love to just know who Nate Ginsberg is.
Yeah, I'll give you the quick career. So yeah, I mentioned I moved to Vietnam at the end of 2013, and was a part of this or because of there's an amazing like expat entrepreneur community that was over there and that I was involved with, and yeah, I was really trying to like figure something out. I mean, I was doing a little of this, a little consulting, a little of that, and yeah, trying to find like my thing. And while I was over there, got introduced to Amazon FBA and e-commerce by there's some other people over there that were doing it and doing really well with it. And so yeah, a couple years later, I launched my own stuff on Amazon, maybe 2015, which like it's crazy looking back. At the time, I thought that it was like, oh, like it's so crowded, it's the wave is over, and well, turned out to be a different situation. And anyway, so launched this business on Amazon, and that did pretty well. Some of the products hit and took off, and yeah, so that was my focus for a couple of years, and the had an exit from that business in 2017, and yeah, like while building that business, like one thing that I love and have a lot of experience with is really like remote teams and building teams. And so I had a I mean a small team, but a good team that was running my Amazon business for me. And so I thought, oh, like maybe some other people wanted help with account management or supply chain or accounting, and just kind of started offering that as services to people that I knew in my network. And fast forward, that became my company Sellerplex, which offers really like full suite of services for FBA sellers. We've got account management, PPC, supply chain, content, bookkeeping, pretty much like everything that sellers need, a la carte or all together. And so with Sellerplex, we started doing some due diligence projects in like the end of 2020, working with a broker friend, and yeah, like the due diligence projects really started to pick up in 2021 with the aggregator boom. And that got me thinking about, well, I knew this other company, Centurica, that was like the market leader, been around for 10 years, had a really strong brand, and I knew the owner. And so reached out, and yeah, turned out that like, I mean, I expressed interest in buying. He expressed interest in selling. Fast forward, 6 months or so later, I became the new owner of Centurica. And so Centurica focuses on due diligence services for online acquisitions. We work with the buy side, so our clients are our buyers. And I've been running that now for almost 6 months. And yeah, we can get into it, but it's been a ride. I mean, very much a crash course in M&A and what's possible, and learning from our clients and our leads that come in of just, yeah, it's been very eye-opening. And that brings us to where we are now.
Yeah, I like that. That's a interesting background. It seems like everyone that is kind of at the top level, high performing in e-commerce, kind of started in that wild west phase. 13 to 15, everyone's kind of testing, and then now we're graduation phase. Maybe the market is like kind of imploded or flatlined now, but um, yeah, I'd be very curious on, before we dive a little deeper into Centurica, due diligence, the marketplace as where it is in in its phase right now. I would love to know what the mission, like outside of the money, what was it that you saw where you're like, okay, this can be the mission of the company, so that you can gather employees together and say, this is the direction we're going into.
Mm.
Can you shed some light on
With
where
with Centurica or Sellerplex or in general, or
I would say with Centurica, what
yeah,
would be the direction where you're like, this is where we want to take the company, this is the mission?
sure. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, like, so I've done a lot of introspection over the years around like, yeah, what's my mission and, what are my skills and how can those be applied to create value in this? And, like I love entrepreneurs. I love working with entrepreneurs. Like that's very much, my people. And so, yeah, that's, one of the reasons why it's not, not a coincidence that I've really gravitated towards B2B, because I like working with entrepreneurs and like I get entrepreneurs. And so yeah, with Centurica, we work with a lot of entrepreneurs as well. And I mean, I love, business. I love, I think acquisitions are super interesting. And like, it's a really interesting, it's a really interesting tool in your toolkit to like grow a business. And it's stuff that, yeah, that I think a lot of entrepreneurs are, becoming more aware of, but yeah, a vision to be able to support entrepreneurs in, acquiring, building, strategic acquisitions. Like, yeah, that's all really interesting to me. So that's sort of what drew me to the business. And yeah, to be able to support, buying a business is a big deal. And so to be able to like support people through that process is, yeah, like that's cool to me.
Nice. And so I guess going into Centurica and kind of what you guys do there, help us understand like what is it exactly that you guys do with the buyers? Are they I know you mentioned due diligence and kind of going into that, but help us understand what it is that.
Sure. Yeah. So due diligence, there's a couple of different buckets that we can think about when it comes to due diligence. Broadly speaking, we can say there's financial, there's operational, and there's commercial. And so on the financial side, the core part of that is going to be rebuilding the P&L and, to identify, gaps or differences. And so let's say you're buying a business, let's say it's $1 million, $250,000 profit, 4x multiple, $1 million valuation. And, you'd hire us to, like those numbers that you get is just the seller giving them to you. There's no like check other than that's what they, told you. And so you'd hire us to go through and like verify those numbers. And so what we do is we rebuild the P&L from scratch. So that's like getting access to their, accounting software, getting access to, their Amazon, their Shopify, their bank statements, their credit card statements to like rebuild and then, match and verify the numbers that the seller is presenting. And so that's one of the pieces on the financial side. And then there's operational, which is, you can kind of think of more like looking internally into the business. And so that's to see like, are there red flags? Are there, skeletons in the closet? As well as, potential value creation, like internally. And so, some examples, like maybe they were doing a bunch of, black hat or gray hat, giveaways or review tactics. Like that would go into operational. As well as we've been doing some really cool like HR and ops like audits. And so like interviewing and reviewing the team and the org chart. And it's like, oh, well, like, and so that's again, to identify risk as well as opportunity. And so it's like, oh, well, you're buying this business and the founder is actually like, they have this unique skill set or value add that like could be difficult to replace is, one potential thing that could come from the, the ops diligence, as well as just like, oh, the team structure is not, and, candidly, most businesses probably don't have the most optimized team structure. And so it's like coming in, oh, well, like this person isn't really in the right seat. This is the current structure, but if you move it to, this kind of structure and this person, you empower this person and this person does this. And, and also just, we have a lot of experience with just like hiring. And so we can identify like, oh, well, like you're paying X thousand a month for this and that. And, we know you can get similar or better resources for, different prices. So that would go into the operational. So that's all like internal. And then there's external. So that's like, it's called market diligence or commercial diligence, which is looking at things like, oh, like what's the, external landscape for this business, the category that it's in, what's happening, if the platforms that it's selling on or reliant on, what is the, the future of that look like? And, what are competitors doing? Are there different, services or offers or, innovations and yeah, kind of like looking at the landscape outwardly, to then again identify risks and opportunities.
I like that. That breakdown is very helpful. So financial, operational, commercial, or external. So would that comprise of everything that goes into? I know all three of those can go very deep and long depending on the business. Is that basically the parameters of if I'm looking to buy into businesses, those three categories?
So so our main deliverable, so we have like a standard scope report that covers the financial, covers some operational, covers some commercial, but then we have additional kind of add-ons. So we have our like standard scope, which is again financial and covers some operational and this, and it's like, oh, do you want HR and operations diligence? Okay, sure, that's an additional like module. And oh, you want us to do like growth and opportunity analysis? Okay, like that's another module. Oh, you want us to do like legal diligence? And that's something that we don't, I don't have like lawyers on my team, but we have lawyers that we work with to be able to like review these things. And so yeah, we kind of have like our stock scope, and then depending on what your needs are, we can tailor to address your biggest questions.
Nice. With that said, I would love to ask you about the aggregator landscape or just the marketplace in general. I know you guys had one blog post that mentioned the number of listings, number of business listings, whether it was SaaS, e-commerce, content, and then the number of listings that sold were kind of going down this year. What are your thoughts on the landscape and everything that's going on today?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting and will be interesting to see, how these things, shake out over the coming year. Obviously a lot of things have changed in, the macro economy, in the last 6 months or in the last year for sure. And so, one that we've seen is obviously like aggregators are less bullish. And so they're doing, some have failed, some are consolidating, some are, have slowed down, or they're doing, quality over quantity type deals. And so that's, one kind of big factor that's changed. Additionally is like rising interest rates, just kind of uncertainty in the economy. Like it's unclear what the year ahead is going to look like for just like a lot of businesses in general. And so with a lot of that uncertainty, I think that creates, well, there is uncertainty, which, then affects like, how it affects M&A. It could be a couple of different things. The thing is, it's like, there are a couple of different narratives that, I don't know, make sense. And I guess we'll see what reigns true. But for example, rising interest rates make it more expensive to, borrow money and use leverage. So, and a lot of acquisitions use leverage. So like that could make the acquisitions go down. On the other side, I think we are, certainly could be, but my opinion, I think we are, seeing a shift from more a seller's market to a buyer's market. And so, at the beginning of the year, like Amazon businesses that were pretty mediocre getting a 5x or an 8x, multiple. And, now I don't think buyers are, have that same interest or appetite. And the thing is, like, sellers, in order for it to switch from a buyer to a seller's market, I mean, in order for an acquisition to happen, buyer and seller expectations have to be aligned, right? And, I think what happened is at the beginning of the year, seller expectations were super high. And then, whenever it was that, the world kind of woke up to uncertain economic times, all of a sudden the buyer expectation dropped and like, oh, there's no way I'm paying 8x for that anymore. But at the same time, like when that happens, the seller, like if a month ago they were expecting 5x or 8x, they're not just going to be like, oh, okay, like sure, 3x. But, as time goes on, if buyers aren't buying at the higher numbers, like that changes the reality. And so over time, the seller expectation is going to come down as they realize that what was possible 1 month ago, 6 months ago, 1 year ago, if that's not the reality now. And like, look, like a lot of sellers that, they need to sell for whatever reason, or they want to sell for whatever reason. And like, look, if this is the reality that we're in, their expectations come down, which make it much more advantageous towards buyers. And so, and that could turn into like, a lot of activity in M&A because valuations come down and buyers, I mean, yeah, like a lot of them use leverage, but a lot of them like a lot of the way these funds work is they raise all this money and they have to deploy it. And so yeah, in that instance, there could be a lot of activity. It's like, but yeah, we'll see which narrative plays out. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that's the cycle, the economic cycle that's been around for hundreds of years. It might seem new to us because there's the internet involved, and maybe even in the lifetime of the internet, there hasn't been this much uncertainty or like what's going to happen next. But I think that entire cycle is always there. There's ups and downs. I think the supply of money the last 5-10 years, I'd say, has been extremely high. So things could shoot up, but now it's kind of drying up. And I like how you're saying now it's a buyer's market. So anyone that's so does that mean there could be potentially, or there are better deals on the market now, and maybe it can go on for the next 6 months to a year, where sellers need some cash for something else, they need to lower the multiples, and there could be potential good deals for buyers looking to get in?
I mean, it's possible. The thing is like, we'll see what happens, but I think there is a scenario and a narrative where it becomes really attractive for buyers. I mean, look, like, economic uncertainty and just, global uncertainty, it creates, fear. And so a business owner, I mean, it creates, fear as well as just like
An opportunity.
right. Well, yeah, we'll fear as well as like these things. I don't think we've seen so much of a trickle down into the impact that it's having, but it's like, sales can go, sales have been going up for whatever years, and now they're stagnant or they're going down. And like, that creates, the thing is, so as a buyer, it's really tough to get a good value on a business when it's growing, because when it's growing, and as a business owner, if your business is doubled or grown by 30% or 50% for X years in a row, you think it's just going to keep on growing. And so like, yeah, you're not going to accept like a lower offer because you think, oh, well, it grew 50% last year and the year before, it's going to keep doing that. And so, you're not going to accept something. You have like a very high valuation expectation, but let's say your business was growing, and now you have a down year, or it's like the 6 months is going down, all of a sudden your expectations change a lot, and you're, likely going to be willing to entertain a lot of different offers on that. And so that's where it becomes the opportunity on the buy side is, like as a buyer, you want to minimize your risk, and, you want the best deal structure and valuation, possible. And so if businesses start, flatlining or declining, that, these could be solid, healthy businesses that just due to market conditions are, sales can't go up forever. And so, if you catch some of these businesses where sales have flatlined or starting to come down, then yeah, I think like buyers, that could be a big opportunity for buyers when sellers are more willing or open to negotiate. And yeah, that could turn into really interesting opportunities for like, savvy buyers. And, there's that I think it's Warren Buffett. It's, be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. And like, I think we could be we could be entering a period where there's a lot of fear and fearfulness that, again, on the flip side, for savvy buyers and entrepreneurs, could turn into some really great buying opportunities.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and great thoughts on that. And for you guys listening that are new to the Amazon game, have recently launched, or maybe up to that 6-figure, 7-figure mark, sometimes you guys tell me there's uncompetitive advantages from these sellers, black hat tactics. We're seeing the market kind of shift down, and everyone's kind of playing on the same level field. So think of it as opportunity. And of course, there is fear, there is uncertainty, but I think there's more level playing opportunity with newer tactics coming out that you could have a head start on, and kind of capitalize where other people might be looking to sell or lower their valuations, or not seeing newer ways of marketing strategies, things like that.
Right. Well, just to your point as well, and back to the be, greedy when others are fearful, fearful when others are greedy, where it's like a lot of this uncertainty also, if that turns away a lot of people from the market, or like, oh, they thought they were, it drives away competition as well. And so, less people it become less competitive. There's less people entering the market. A big thing also is on advertising. Like, one of the classic things that, people say and talk about is that, less people are advertising. So therefore, that's one of the first things that businesses cut is marketing expense. And when you do that, and all these businesses are cutting marketing expenses, the cost for, that acquisition goes down. So again, if you're, greedy when others are fearful, that can become your opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think of it as some of these things are on discount, whether it's influencer marketing, Facebook ads have dropped. And yeah, there's still opportunity there, just like we're mentioning. And yeah, I'm just happy to hear it from you that you guys are seeing this on a grander level. And with that said, kind of transitioning with back to Centurica, I'm curious on your guys' goals for the next 12 months. In spite of all these uncertainties, like as a team, you guys meet, what are your guys' 12-month goals coming up?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll just say stuff that I'm thinking about big picture with Centurica. So I came into Centurica, it has a pretty established brand. We're pretty well known in the space. We get a decent amount of inbound leads and inquiries. One of the biggest, I think, challenges and opportunities is that right now our only offer is due diligence services. And the thing with due diligence services is they're only relevant when you have a company that you're, literally about to buy. And so stuff that I'm thinking about it, and we, most of the people that, that contact us, they don't have a company under LOI. They're interested, or they're thinking, or they're looking at this or that. And so, I think it's an opportunity to, expand our offerings and just kind of see, when, we have people that reach out that, like, they're looking for help, but at this, like right now, we don't really have great ways to support them. And so, that's a lot what I'm thinking about, is being able to, like, expand our offerings to be able to meet people where they are, to, add value. And there's a lot of cool stuff. I mean, if you think of the acquisition, like, life cycle, you've got pre-LOI, you've got post-LOI, and you've got post-close. And so, right now, due diligence is post-LOI, pre-close. And so that's like the middle of that life cycle. But, pre-LOI, there's really cool stuff around, like, deal generation, deal flow, deal analysis. I'm thinking of, like, types of communities where people share deal flow and like a vetted group that of people that are into M&A and trying to make moves that, can collaborate or, invest, or, operators and investors that, kind of link up. So that's like, pre-LOI, then, post LOI, there's all this, post acquisition integration support. And some of that I think would be like, my other company, Sellerplex, we work with a lot of e-commerce. We don't exclusively do e-commerce, but we do a lot of e-commerce acquisitions. And so, yeah, being able to, like, after they finish the deal, we're like, oh, hey, well, like, we can help you run and grow this business better. Here, talk to, this agency is, some of the other opportunities that I'm thinking about.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, I feel like this space is like wide open. But on the e-com side, aggregators, due diligence from buying, I feel like it's just like a new wave, a fresh wave coming in and kind of cleaning things up. I'll be curious to see after the shakeup, like who stands, what are some of those value add offers. Yeah, I'd be very curious on that because, yeah, as we're operating, like I haven't thought about exit because like I just want to think about our customers, our audience, improving the product. But obviously, I think there comes a time where you do need to think about that. But I just feel like now is so much more of a time to like go deeper into the business as other people might be leaving.
Yeah, well, kind of on that and some other stuff, I'll say that, like, when it comes to mergers and acquisitions, like there's a wide range of, when I'm thinking of that, it's like, it can mean so many things. And really a lot of where my head's been at, just kind of since taking over Centurica, and I'm just, meeting and talking to all of these, entrepreneurs that are doing acquisitions or thinking about acquisitions. And I just think there's tons of ways to collaborate and, build, teaming up, whether it's joint ventures, whether it's mergers, whether it's acquisitions. And it's like, all right, well, like, you've got a business that does this and you have, well, you can think of, mergers and acquisitions as a way to solve whatever your problems. And so it's like, oh, well, like, we're great at X, but we don't have any offers that we could cross sell. It's like, oh, well, if you're good at that, and oh, you find a business that has a complementary service offering, and oh, well, maybe you can team up and, now you merge or one acquires the other and you can just cross sell immediately to, to each other's customer base. Or like, oh, well, like, you have people come into you and they all have this problem that you're not set to solve. And oh, well, you could find a business that does do that you could, again, acquire, merge, joint venture, what, like it, people also think like, mergers and acquisitions is so like heavy. And I mean, there's a whole range. It's like, okay, it could start off as a referral arrangement that turns into a joint venture that, oh, if all these things go well, then maybe you talk about an actual acquisition or this or that. I mean, there's just like, what excites me a lot about M&A is just how it's such a creative canvas. There's no like, there's so many ways to structure things. There's so many ways to incentivize things. And yeah, I mean, I think that's really interesting.
At a certain revenue marker, right? And the one other question that I was thinking as you're talking is, do you guys handle businesses that are on website closers, Empire Flippers, Flippa, like anything that goes, you guys could do due diligence for, or is there a certain revenue marker that you guys are looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that, generally we work on businesses that, on the low end are going to be like a little under $1 million. And then, up to, I think the biggest that we've worked on since I've been running Centurica is like, like 30 million or something. So, but yeah, I mean, the thing is like the kind of the infrastructure and the team that I've built, we're pretty dynamic. And so, like I said, we do a lot of e-commerce. That's kind of our sweet spot if we have one. I mean, and really the big thing there is a lot of people don't understand cost of goods. If your as cost of goods is tricky. And, we have experience specifically with cost of goods. We get it. I have like a supply chain person, at Centurica that, gets cost of goods. And so we're able to, do that competently. Whereas if you're just like an accounting firm, you might not understand, how the POs fit together and this and that. And so yeah, but at the same time, like, like I've got an amazing woman who really leads our team. And, she's like an amazing experienced accountant and, also in operations. And so like we can do due diligence on a brick and mortar, like the process is the same. And, we've got a pretty deep bench in terms of analysts that we could deploy. And so it's like, if you're buying a restaurant and you wanted us to do due diligence, like, I would take that project on and, we could scope it out and a lot of the things that we're currently doing would apply. But if we had to fill gaps, we can. We're really strong in recruiting. And so if there's something that we're not able to do, we can, we can find someone that can do that to fill any holes. So yeah.
So again, just to wrap up in summary, someone is looking to buy a business, or let's say I'm looking to buy a business. I go to Empire Flippers. I see this Amazon FBA business selling for 500K, or let's say 700K. I do my due diligence as best as I could pre-LOI. And can I reach out to you guys at that point and say, hey, I like this business on a surface level. It looks good. I like the product. I've spoken to the seller, whatever. Could I reach out to you guys at that point and say, hey, can you guys help me verify some of this info?
Yeah, totally. And you brought up something, something really good that I'm glad that you brought up around like a good time to reach out. And yeah, it really is like before you have the LOI. So a lot of people, it's like, hey, I'm looking at a business, I think I'm going to do an LOI, like, what's your availability? Are you able to, work on this? And then, so then like we start the relationship, beforehand, and then they, when they have the business, then, we know to kick off and get started. And the thing is, for a lot of these deals, once you have an LOI, there's often a exclusivity period. And so maybe it's 60 days. And so once you have that LOI, the clock starts ticking. And so on our side, it's best if we can start the conversation beforehand, as opposed to like, we had a deal. I mean, this is over the summer, and like we didn't get engaged until there was like a 30-day deadline, basically, that like they had the business under LOI, and look, like our team really came together and was able to deliver, but that was stressful, and it was stressful for the seller, for us, like our team was scrambling, because a lot of these things, I mean, and just to set expectations, like the process takes time, and a lot of times it's bottlenecked by the like getting access to the data that we need. And so we do a kickoff call, we send you, okay, we need access to this, you need to send these statements, blah blah blah. It's like it's a bunch of stuff, and we're not able to complete the work until we get all of that information. And look, like everyone's organized at different levels, and so it's like, maybe, you're the seller and we say, hey, here's what we need. And you're like, boom, have it all organized. Here's a folder, get to work. Or you literally have none of it together. And it's like, it takes a week or 2 weeks in this, and, oh, we still need that. Like, and again, we're not able to complete our work until we get all that information. And so long story short, just getting it like best to engage beforehand so we can, hit the ground running, as opposed to being like, have a tighter deadline and then just has more time pressure.
Awesome. I really like that. My brain's spinning in a lot of directions. And even again, for you guys listening, some of you have mentioned the thought of buying the business. I've mentioned a lot in the videos that you can set up businesses to sell, so it's an asset. So I'm really glad this conversation is happening, and I can go in so many different directions. Maybe sometime in the future we can dive deeper into some of these areas. I want to go back into your ecom days just to keep it a little more relevant on our audience, and as they're operating the business and selling. What would you say was your superpower in e-commerce that kind of got you to that success level where you exited? What was that
Yeah.
superpower?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like I was getting to earlier. I mean, I'm really good with teams and with hiring, and so yeah, like that's how I solve problems in business where it's like, oh, well, like, we need more product development. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go find someone who like is good at product development or product research. Okay, like I've got a bit of a process, and I'm gonna find someone that can do that, or manage supply chain, manage PPC, manage this, manage that, like that's just like how I solve problems in business, and how I built my e-commerce business. And so yeah, that's the approach, and kind of just again a mindset shift of like,
Mhm.
you know who has experience that can solve this problem is kind
Mhm.
of like the way that I think about business.
I like that. So as you're selling, understanding the full scope of what is needed, and then going and finding that talent for each spot. That because yeah, we can't do everything. There's no way to handle every part of the business. I think that's we get into that trap as we're starting. But to
Yeah.
understand the scope and then go and hire for those positions.
Yep,
Love that.
exactly.
Well, Nate, this has been super, super helpful. I wish we could talk for hours about this and go a little deeper. And I hope in the future we can do that even offline. But just for the sake of this, for people listening that might be interested, how can people connect with you? Where can they find you? I'm gonna leave the blog that you guys write and the um, email service that you guys provide is phenomenal. So I'm going to leave that
Oh,
in the
thank you.
description. But just on a personal level, where can people connect you and find you?
Yeah, well, first, appreciate the comments on the email and the content, and that's been a big project on my side of just getting our content marketing and email started, and so yeah, so appreciate you checking it out. Glad you like it, and yeah, for me, connect on social. I'm at Nate Ginsberg everywhere. Yeah, like you mentioned, it's kind of a mix of business and yoga and mindfulness and travel, which is kind of what stuff that I'm about. And yeah, if anyone wants to connect on buying businesses, investing businesses, like, yeah, if any of this stuff that I said sounds interesting, or if you're looking for any help running your e-commerce business, just knowing that that's what your audience is, then yeah, Sellerplex, happy to explore. And yeah, just hit me up, shoot me a DM, send me an email, Nate at Centurica, and would love to connect.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I'll leave all of those links in the description so people can reach out to you. You've been very helpful and generous just with the content and info, so I appreciate that. And yeah, we'll chat soon about some of the other stuff we have. So I appreciate you.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.